So this is James Hawthorne. This is our second year doing this festival in Arlington, Texas. James Hawthorne was basically the brains behind it. Brought it to, created the Arlington Film Society, and brought this project to basically to the table. And then we have George Wada, who of course is a filmmaker and a photographer here in Dallas. And we have Tom Syme, who used to be here with the Dallas Morning News, was the arts columnist, writer, everything, lots of stuff. And now he's in New York. Is that correct, Tom?
Yes, New York by way of Jersey City.
Okay, there you go. And George and Tom have collaborated on a music video that's going to be in the festival. So can we start with James giving?
I'm actually cranking on Tom, so if we're going to
move over here and take a picture from
do
there.
something else, then I have to adjust.
No, I want to make sure that it looks good. All right.
And I'll get some.
Okay, you don't have to move. There's plenty of room behind there. Okay. I mean, hey, well, there's room.
He means to say you're thin and we're a bunch of fat.
There's also a part of me saying, yes, I guess we could have moved this because.
And trust me, the guys won't mind.
She's like, but.
This is not New York subway people. We've already had problems in Austin with our stuff this week, so let's.
All right, moving right along. Back to work. Okay, so can we start with James?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes.
I reset my frame.
Okay, so James, will you talk about the success of last year and just bring us up to speed and kind of what we can expect this year in sort of a big overview, and then we'll go into more details.
Okay, sure. Last year was the first year of the festival, and I think we had a great community response. We saw over 600 people, I believe, showed up over the 3-day period, and it was just a phenomenal success. It wasn't it was more than we had anticipated. You never know, first time you have a festival out the gate, you know, how many people are going to support it, who's going to show up. So to see the community support that we did was just great. And the community embraced it, and it appears this year there's an appetite or just a flavor for more film in Arlington, more independent film, and so that's exciting. And that's exciting to be able to be in a position to support independent filmmakers such as George and the others that are out there that do phenomenal work. And we want their work to be seen, we want it to be shown, and we want to create an audience for it. And above all, we just want to recognize some of the great talent that exists in the Arlington community as it relates to independent film. There are a lot of great independent filmmakers there, and you know, you don't have to go to Dallas, you don't have to go to Fort Worth to see great independent film. We have it right in Arlington, and so we want to spotlight that. We want to highlight it, we want to celebrate it, and we want to bring attention to the great film work and filmmakers that are there.
So, what is your theme this year for the film festival?
Well, I don't know that we necessarily have a theme, if you will. Our theme, I think, every year is inspiring community activism. We want people to come to the festival and walk away inspired to want to do more and make a difference in the community. One of the things that I said last year was that film, like music, has the unique ability to bring people together from all colors, backgrounds, because people come together, and it's not you don't see the division that you sometimes see in society. And I think film is just a wonderful medium that does that. And that was something that I really wanted to create for the city, a way to bring people together so that we can, you know, get away from some of this nonsense that we see, so much divisive and divisiveness in the community. And for one weekend, one night, one day, 1 hour, you know, people come together and they see film and they support it. And when you look around at the audience, you scan the audience and you see the diversity in the audience there. I mean, it's just a good feeling, a great thing. And it's all about supporting the independent film and the independent filmmakers, and so that's what I want to do, because it's not about me. I'm just trying to create a forum for these guys to have an opportunity to express and people to see their work.
So where did you start your process this year? Did you open up for submissions? Did you go to other film festivals? So kind of walk us through your thought process and how you picked the films and where you picked the films and what surprised you and what did not surprise you.
Yeah, I did a little bit of getting out, if you will. I went down to Austin community and connected with a few people down there. Yaki Smith, who is a filmmaker, was in Arlington for a long time, and now he's recently moved to Austin. He and I are good friends, Bart Weiss, and others in the Dallas-Fort Worth area who are involved in film. I connected with them and tried to network with them, and they really opened some doors for me in terms of connecting me with other people, other filmmakers and other films. And so that was a good thing. I think in terms of surprises it seemed that in a good way, the film festival seemed to catch on a little bit, if you will. We got twice the submissions that we got last year, and so that was surprising, but at the same time a good thing. And then so the number of submissions were more, and then we have a lot more international filmmakers that submitted to the festival, which was a surprise as well. And so I think the quality of films that we see are better than last year. The number of international films went up. We have a more diverse collection of films, and so it's just a reason to be excited for what we are trying to create, the synergy around the film community that exists in the Arlington area. And I get calls from filmmakers periodically that are looking for a festival. You know, you ask, how do we get our submissions? We went through Film Freeway, and that was the bulk of the submissions, but there were people who reached out to me independently that were shopping festivals and shopping a place to land their film, and so we were able to accommodate them as well. So I'm just encouraged that people recognize us, and I don't know if we're necessarily a real player in the film festival market yet. I don't want to go that far, but people do recognize that we provide a place, a forum for independent film, and we celebrate that with what we do with our festival.
Did you go to other film festivals and try to get films that you saw there that you wanted to bring to the Arlington community?
Absolutely. I went down to Austin and made connection with some of the individuals down there. James Christopher with the Revolution Film Festival. I met quite a few filmmakers down there and talked to them, and as a result of attending that festival, we did get submissions from some of those individuals. I talked to the folks with the Lone Star Film Festival, and they're actually interested in a partnership with us. We hadn't worked out all the details with that yet, but they're interested in a partnership, and we want to explore those opportunities. I think we have similar thoughts of trying to lift up the film community and just really cultivate it and help people to embrace or understand who's here. Because a lot of times, you know, people think Los Angeles, they think New York, they think Austin, Texas when they think of film. They don't think Arlington, you know, and we want them to think Arlington when they think of film, because there are a lot of filmmakers, great filmmakers, who are doing a lot of good things in New York, in Los Angeles, and in, you know, those places that have roots right here in Arlington, Texas.
When you're doing your selection process, is there anything you steer away from with films, or is it pretty much open to any kind of film?
It's really, you know, we don't want films that are too provocative, and we've gotten some of those. You know, we're not the adult film festival, you know, and so we kind of try to steer away from them and try to make our festival a more family-friendly atmosphere. Sure. But pretty much, you know, it's open. You know, we're open to innovative ideas, and I like seeing the different types of films that come in. And sometimes we'll get out there on the edge just a little bit with some of the projects that they submit. But that's the fun and the beauty of it, because I think, you know, people don't want to see the same old thing. They don't want the cookie cutter film that comes through. And so with independent film, you're able to get in there and explore and push the edges and push the boundaries a little bit. with what people see. And so if we have a little of that in the festival, I think that's exciting. I think people come to see a little something different, not the same kind of thing.
In the vein of Marcus's question, would you have shown Wolf by Yaki Smith in your film fest? Have you seen Wolf?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It touches on a topic that I think it was at that time
Yeah.
and still is very relevant.
Oh, extremely relevant.
Yeah, in the community. And so, yeah, we don't want to shy away from those kind of conversations
Okay.
and those kind of issues. I mean, because those are real issues that need conversation and discussion, because that's real stuff.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, absolutely, that type of film would absolutely be welcome in a festival. I think what, we would try to stay away from, if we had films that were alt-right, alt-left,
Yeah.
things of that nature that are divisive.
Tommy Lauren, don't submit. He goes.
Yeah. We're not trying to make a political statement, because oftentimes those stories would not be told if it were not for people like George or other people who submit films. And so bringing those stories to life so that people can see those stories that wouldn't be told otherwise. I mean, that's the great thing about film and what they do in the visual world, is bring those stories to life and make them real so that people can see it and feel it and get a flavor for it, and it just gives it a whole new meaning than reading it on the book and reading it on a paper. It just brings that whole thing to life. And so that's the kind of thing that we try to push and celebrate with the festival.
One of the many things I admire about you is, you had a celebrated career with the Arlington Police Department. You're an assistant chief when you retired. And, a lot of times when someone retires from the police department or from their job, they just want to get away. They want to leave the city, they want to go on their own, but you have done something very different. You have shown your love and your compassion for the citizens of Arlington in the Mid-Cities area. And, it's been a year since we talked to you, and could you tell us some of the comments and some of the conversations you've had since your last film festival? Because, like I said, it's very unusual for someone who's retired in the police department who wants to come back and really give themselves to the community like you have. And I think it's great. Not a lot of people do it, but could you talk about the partnerships and the conversations you've had with city officials and people you've known professionally and personally, and then talk about the great relationship you have with George. George is a celebrated filmmaker. He's a longtime Arlington resident, and he's very, he's on your crew helping you a lot.
Yeah, I guess when you ask that question, first of all, I love the city of Arlington, Texas. And I worked at the city of Arlington for 28, 29 years, and having a relationship with the people who work in the city, people who own businesses in the city, it only seemed like the right thing to do, for me anyway, to try to create something that I hope would live past me. Something that, again, would bring people together and get us away from some of the divisive conversations that sometimes seem to exist. And so the idea, the creation, the thought process was to create something that, for me anyway, is, it's not much, but it's what I can do as an individual to create something that is going to bring people together and hopefully live past me. Hopefully someday somebody will pick up the torch that I just lit here, and they'll take this festival and they'll do something even greater beyond whatever I could do, or whatever I have the resources to do. But, it all started with just one person thinking they wanted to do something to help their community. And a lot of times we think as individuals that, how can I have an impact? I really can't do much. Well, you really can. It's just about making the effort, as small as it might seem, and how that impact kind of ripples out sometimes to beyond what you could ever imagine. And there are times when I hear stories, like I heard a story from George the other day about what having a film festival like this means to him for the city, and I'll let George speak on that. But that's great, and that's the reason that I created it. But when you're in the minutia of doing it every day, you kind of lose sight of the fact that you may be having an impact like that. And there are probably impacts with this festival that I'll never know. never hear about, and that's fine. It's the fact that we made the impact, the fact that we have created something here for the independent filmmakers. I think that's, for me anyway, that's what it's all about. And for it to continue long after I'm gone, and maybe Hollywood comes to Arlington one day, and somebody said, well, how did we get all of this started? Yeah, there's that crazy cop from Arlington, that thought he could do something in film, And I'm not a filmmaker, never been a filmmaker. I play around with film on my iPhone, but that's just not what I do. But what I am about is creating a forum, just a place to recognize what these guys do, because that's what this is all about. It's about the George Waters and the Yaki Smiths and all those other people who create independent film that just tell dynamic stories that would not be seen, heard, or told in any other way. And so it's about celebrating these individuals. And maybe they don't ever get a Hollywood script. Maybe they don't ever do any of that other stuff, but some of the work that they do is just as good or better than anything that you'll ever see on a Hollywood screen. And so people should have an appreciation for that. They should want to come and see our festival, because they'll see those types of films and they'll meet these individuals, and maybe they'll be inspired. Maybe they'll be inspired to pursue their dream just by coming and talking to a George Water and listening to his story and just hearing how he has himself retired from a career, and taken up film as a passion of his. And so I think if the more that I can do those kind of things, then that's what this is all about.
George, as a longtime Arlington resident, you're very involved in the community on many different levels, and you're a filmmaker. Kind of talk about what it means to you as a citizen, but also too as a filmmaker living within the city, to have this film festival now, this support.
I've known you for 10 years, a lot of people here for a long, long time. But oh my goodness, I feel like a little kid that finally got onto the Little League baseball team, and it's just there's so much excitement, and I've been there. I've been to film festivals, been in film, created a lot of other stuff, but this one, it's like a big icing on the cake, and it means a lot. First of all, I live in Arlington, and obviously you got Bart Weiss, head of the film school there, and then Yaki Smith doing some really incredible film projects right up living here. And then you think about all the other people in New York and Los Angeles that grew up in Arlington or went to UTA. So yes, I'm in really great company. I'm excited.
James, you talk about you're not a filmmaker. You had a very great career in law enforcement, but you're not a filmmaker. You watch films on your phone, but kind of talk to us about how film has impacted you throughout your whole life. What are some of your favorite films that have really impacted you as a person and molded you as a person, not only as a person but as a husband, as a father, and a leader in the community?
Well, I go back into one of the first films that I saw, not the first film, but I go back to, I remember in the 70s, my mom would drop me off at the Hollywood Theater in Fort Worth, downtown Fort Worth, and that was in the early 1970s, and all the blaxploitation films were out, and so I'd go to the theater every Sunday, and one movie that I remember that really stuck out to me was Cooley High, and all the characters in Cooley High, and the message, from that film seemed to be, anyway, to no matter the obstacles, stick to your guns, do the right thing. All of those kind of messages were embedded in that film. And as a young kid, trying to figure out which way I wanted to go, I left that theater thinking the moral to that story was, stay true to yourself and always do the right thing when nobody else was even looking around, So it was about building character. I didn't know it. I didn't know that's what it was doing for me at the time, but that's what it was all about. Those things that you do when people aren't looking, doing the right thing, and so it's building your moral base, building character within you. And so, although the filmmakers may not have been intending to do that, I have no idea what they were intending to do. They were just trying to entertain, but that's what I walked away with it from. And of course, there were other films that were just strictly entertainment that I looked at. But I can remember sitting down watching Fantasia and all of the stuff that was going on with that film, and just being blown away as a kid, just thinking about how did they do that? You know, how did they make that happen? You know, how do they make cartoons talk? How do they make them walk? And to kind of see some of the picture cards that they used to make those drawings move and come to life, you know, that was just kind of interesting to me, very, very fascinating. And so I've always had I've always been a film lover, a film buff. I like watching movies, and I like all genres of movies. So, you know, just I think this is something that's just me watching film, being in film, or just having a connection to film has just been a part of my life since I was just a small child. You know, I never had the aspiration to be a filmmaker, to take it to that level, but I've always enjoyed watching movies and the stories that they tell, because that's the other thing that I always think about, is that they just tell stories in a way that would not be seen or heard otherwise, you know.
Since Cooley High was such a impact on your life, could we see it at a future film festival of yours?
You know, I actually thought about that for real. I did. I thought about bringing it back and doing a kind of a retro night and bringing in Cooley High, and I just think that would be so cool. You know,
Gordon Parks Jr., the son of the director of Shaft, lives in Austin, Texas.
Oh, he lives in Austin. I didn't realize he lived in Austin. Yeah, well, there you go. Might be a reason to bring him up and have him talk about the making of Cooley High. Yeah, that's a great idea. Would take him that far or have that kind of impact on other individuals. And so just films like that, those are the ones that kind of stick out, you know, to me the most, that I think people will find entertaining. But you're right, there's a whole lineup of films, great films that really should be seen. And some of the foreign movies that are there, I mean, really, The Descendants, which will be screened on Saturday night, I mean, that's just an absolutely great film. And I think people would be remiss if they didn't see that one, because it tells a great story, and people should really come out and see that film, The Descendants.
I was very impressed with your lineup, is that it basically touches every person in Arlington. Arlington's a very diverse community. You have a large South Asian population from India and Pakistan that, you know, live and, you know, attend the university. You have a large Asian population, African American, white, we go on and on and on, Hispanic. So did you have those community members in mind when you're picking those films? Because the thing about a film festival is you want to touch everyone in your community.
Yeah, no.
You've done this.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, that was very intentional. We chose a diverse selection of films because, like you said, we recognize that Arlington is a very diverse community, and we wanted to have something there for everybody who lives in the city to come and enjoy. And so that was a very intentional effort, and you will always see that type of diversity in the film festivals that we have.
So George, can we talk about your film and with Tom here?
Yeah. First of all, can I say, Tom, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Great. Wait, do we need to?
No, it's
refresh?
I need to zoom in.
Okay, hold on just one sec.
And after we talk with Tom and George about their film, I got a follow-up question for James, an ending question.
Okay.
Okay.
all right.
George is the real star.
Yeah. Well, so is this guy right here.
Yeah. Well, who knew we would get a Tom sign?
I know.
I mean, who knew?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, where do I begin? Do I begin 10 years ago with, I guess, AFI or Lone Star? Or the other one is, prior to that, I knew of Tom Syme from the Dallas Morning News doing theater, and one of my first clients that I got after I left my corporate world was Uptown Theater, and I was doing photography work for them for like 1 or 2 years. And then that got me with the Contemporary Theater of Dallas, and then I'm starting to read all these theater critics, and Tom Syme keep reading this critique. And one day he gets hired with the Contemporary Theater of Dallas, and then we started this long running working and personal friendship evolving after that. So I got to work on some really cool photo shoots with Tom while he was the managing director at the Contemporary Theater of Dallas. And then he finally decided he has to move on, so he wanted to move to New York and start his own production company, The Modern Stage. And it got off to a pretty good start, and Tom also wanted to be, and he is, no, I shouldn't say wanted to be, Tom is also a playwright, so he's always writing plays for submission, and he's just writing. And then one day I get an email from him saying, hey, I want to be a singer-songwriter, and I want to do a music video. And then all of a sudden my life just completely changed. I said, oh wow, this is really cool. And I was really excited. And then we started this long collaboration. I think this has been 13, at least 4 or 5 years in the making. Tom had all kinds of cool music, and I'm listening to this, and I say, yes, this is pretty good. But let me just say, Tom is a great writer. He's also a great singer-songwriter also. Now, going forward, he's also evolved where he actually brings on professional musicians to help with his arrangement. So we've all matured, but it goes back his very first music release. It was an album called Uglier Than You, and off of that there was a song called Irresistible. And I'm listening to it and say, hey, I really like this. Tom had an idea of how we're going to shoot Irresistible, and I said, no, I don't think I like it this way. So I started scrubbing public domain movies and just looking where somebody that's got a heartthrob for just beautiful people and beautiful lifestyles. And then I came across Charade, and I said, wow, and it was in a really, in fact, I found it as an HD version off of YouTube because it was in public domain. And I made a music video based off of that, and it was pretty good. And another thing I'll say is, anybody listening to this, try to find a full-length version of Charade, public domain. It's out there, but only the crappy ones. Anything that's in halfway decent version has been pulled off, and it directs you to, you could watch it here, where people are actually trying to monetize this. And I would like to say Tom and my Irresistible may have made that happen.
Yeah.
But
Well, and that was 2013.
2013,
because
yes.
you were in the Dallas Video Fest.
yes,
That year with it.
yeah, and that's where I premiered, and it was a grand time for Tom Syme and Tommy Homonym. And if you ever read the backstory of who is Tommy Homonym, yeah, you'll chuckle, you'll laugh, and then say, hey, this guy's really for real. And it's actually a very good story, because in another interview I'll probably say, yes, I'm rooting for Tommy because he's a little bit like me. It's that's Tom's alter ego, and it's actually my alter ego. Through Tommy, I could start making other movies that I probably would not be able to do by myself. But
Well, can you introduce Tom and Tommy Homonym?
well, you know what? Maybe we could do that with Tom.
Or Tom, can you introduce?
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
Yeah, can
Why
you
don't
do-
introduce me?
Well, he's my soft, quivering pink alter ego that I sort of unleashed about 5 years ago. I'd always wanted to do music, but I always had really clumsy fingers and couldn't do tried to learn the guitar and the piano, and it never quite worked out. But then they came up with these electronic things like GarageBand, where I could play virtual instruments, and that solved the problem.
Right.
So I started fooling around with it and doing covers of other people's songs, and then after doing quite a few of those, I started writing my own songs. And like George said, we had a really nice creative rapport. When we worked together in contemporary theater, he would do the photo shoots for our plays, and I would sort of art direct, and he would have creative ideas. And I knew we had a kind of a good way of working together. So I don't know a whole lot about the music business, and that part of it is still a little foreign to me, but I knew we had to have a video. So I called George up, and he just took the ball and ran with it. That came up with this idea for a charade. You know, he took me and incorporated me into this movie with Audrey Hepburn and Cary Grant, and it was just, you know, made the colors match and everything. It was just great. So we launched a really fruitful collaboration after that, and I've continued to pursue this alter ego thing. I say of Tommy Homonym that he's on the milder, more fashionable end of the autistic spectrum. He's openly bisexual, openly imaginary, and openly ancient, which I sort of have to cop to. So it's that part of me that comes out as a different personality, and it sort of gives me a little cover for separating it from my playwriting career. My playwriting career is going pretty well. I've got a play under option with a commercial producer, so it's in development, and I'm hoping it gets up on the stage next year.
Oh, wow. And George has something
yeah.
to add.
Here's one more. I keep forgetting to pitch this.
But it's great that this part of me can finally find a way to thrive. I just put out a new album of, nobody really gave a shit about Uglier Than You, but there was a lot of good stuff on there, and then I put out a few singles after that, and so I just put out a best of Tommy Homonym collection, greatest hits, as it were.
Oh.
So that's out there on YouTube and iTunes, and I knew we needed another. I wanted another video to promote that, or was it the video that came first, and then I came up with the best of idea? I'm really not sure. But George came up with another great movie that we could exploit. It's a public domain. It's The Little Shop of Horrors from 1960. Not the musical version, but the black and white version that Roger Corman directed back in 1960. And he came up with this fabulous concept for how we could use it with one of my songs called Ride a Wave. And he just ran with it, and I flew down to Dallas, and we shot some scenes, and he put them all together, and the result is this video, which I just love.
So cool. Well, George has something to add to you, Tom.
Yeah,
Sure.
I keep forgetting that this is not Tom's only film. There's actually another film making the film circuit as we speak, and it's called, doggone it. Hey Tom, what was Deborah Boris's film?
Oh yeah, it's called Catching Up.
Catching Up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that one's going around on the festival circuit. It's an adaptation of one of my one-act plays.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
Actually,
it's really cool. It's also black and white, and she did a great job. We collaborated on the screenplay. I would do a version, and she'd do a version, and we went back and forth until we had something we were both happy with. And
Very cool.
she's already planning a sequel to it, which is really exciting.
yeah, so I just wanted to pitch that Tom is actually, this is like his third or fourth film project, and two of them now making the film circuit rounds. We premiere at Frame for Frame, and then there's another film festival in Los Angeles that has accepted us, and hopefully we get some more.
Good.